A major legal battle ahead for Harvard University after a federal judge in Boston temporarily blocked an executive order banning international students, which, by the way, makes up more than a quarter of the student body there at Harvard. It's an issue that has become more polarizing, with some lawmakers who say these institutions have become havens for anti-Semitic and anti-American extremism fueled by foreign students on American visas. Joining us now to discuss is Campus Reform's Higher Education Fellow and Professor of Political Science at Suffolk Community College, Nicholas Giordano. Good morning to you, Professor. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Jen.
You say our student visa programs are being exploited by institutions like Harvard at the expense of American students and our national security. How so?
Well, I'll take the national security aspect first. When we look at the national security aspect, the Leadership Institute's campus reform, just 2 weeks ago, we reported how 2 Chinese nationals, one on a student visa, came here with a bioterror agent that could have really hurt our food supplies. So we see how China is exploiting the student visa program. And it's not just about terrorism or espionage. It's also about anti-American activities. At Columbia University, a student is facing removal because they overstayed their visa and they engaged in pro-Hamas activities. We have seen over 10 arrests when it comes to student visa espionage take place in the United States in a 4-year period. And it really does harm to our system when we have lax security procedures when it comes to looking at the backgrounds of these people to find out who they are to come into the United States. Yeah. But Harvard University, they want to fill seats. They want bodies. They want the tuition dollars. And so they overlook maybe some questionable aspects to what these students are doing and the activities they're engaging in to the detriment of our society.
Well, I was just looking at some stats on that because back in the 90s, about 11% of Harvard's student body was made up of international students. Today, it's closer to 27% when you factor in international undergraduates as well as scholars and researchers. We're looking at basically 10,000 foreign students there at Harvard. And this is actually true for most Ivy League schools, with the exception of Columbia, which had the highest at 40%. That makes up its international student body there. Why are we seeing specifically these Ivy Leagues when foreign students at most colleges make up about just 6% of the student body across America?
I think this is something that every American should pay attention to. You know, Harvard receives over 50,000 applications each and every year, and they only accept about 3%. So if 27% of the students are foreign students, you're talking about hundreds to thousands of students, American students, that are being shortchanged and not gaining acceptance into these institutions. And this is where it becomes a moral issue. Why should the American people help subsidize our universities and colleges when these colleges overlook American students in favor of foreign students simply because foreign students may pay higher tuition dollars? Or you have foreign governments that are giving these schools an enormous amount of money to get their students, to get their people in these schools. I think that this is a travesty that's going on in the higher education system. These universities rely on American tax dollars. They rely on American students paying tuition, and therefore they should serve us, not the global community. But yet what we see going on in the university system is that they receive billions, and I'm talking billions with a B, from foreign governments and foreign nationals.
Not only that, you say these institutions attempt to hide behind the First Amendment, which you say is the irony because they've actually been suppressing the speech of a certain group of students on their campuses for years when it comes to their viewpoints. Very quickly, talk about that.
Well, at Campus Reform, we actually did a review, an audit of Harvard. They received over $1.4 billion from foreign nationals and foreign entities in that school. So that's an extraordinary amount of money. But more to the point, when we look at what these colleges have done to marginalize conservatives, to marginalize pro-life activists that may protest on college campuses, they're regulated to what we call free speech zones, where there's designated areas where they could speak about these topics. Yet when it comes to pro-Hamas activities, pro-Hamas demonstrations, they take over the university campus. They commandeer buildings. They threaten other students. And yet the administrations have been slow to react to that. So it shows you the double standards that are going on, and we need to clean up the university system because it is broken.
Campus Reform's Higher Education Fellow and Professor of Political Science at Suffolk Community College, Nicholas Giordano. Thanks for joining us here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.